Hey there, I'm Brittany Schroeder, and business and marketing are my jam. I'm here to walk you step by step through this crazy thing we call business. I'm a small town girl, chocolate eating, Diet Coke drinking mom, marketing guru, automation Jedi, and all around good time. This is your weekly dose of all things business and life, sprinkled with some fun. This is the Redefine Business Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Redefine Business Podcast. I am excited for my guest today. As a cookie lover, I love a story about a successful woman who takes something from the start and creates something amazing. She sees a problem and makes it grow. So I love that. So welcome to the podcast, Carolyn Haeler, the founder of Mightylicious. Welcome, Carolyn.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, Carolyn, tell my listeners just a little bit, tell them about your story. Where did it start? Where did the ideas come from? And just kind of how it evolved and turned into what it is today.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2012. I was 31 years old. And I lived a gluten-full life up until that point. I'd eaten all the bread and the pasta and had the cake and the brownies and enjoyed the beer and loved food and loved life. I love traveling. I love cooking. I love baking. I was definitely a hobbyist baker. Baking was something that I did to decompress and to relax and to settle myself. And it was something that I really enjoyed. So I got the diagnosis with celiac disease. I was very, very sick. Celiac disease, if you don't have it or don't know, is an autoimmune disease. So it's not an allergy. It's not an intolerance. I create antibodies that attack my body, and it was slowly killing me. My hair was falling out. My skin had turned gray. My stomach was distended. My immune system was failing. And my doctor had turned to me after months and months of testing and said, maybe you have HIV. So that should give you a pretty clear indication of how ill I was and how serious my condition had become. Fortunately for me, that was a very devastating thing to hear, as you can imagine. I had a colonoscopy and endoscopy scheduled for a couple of days after that appointment. And fortunately for me, they found the antibodies for celiac disease. So they handed me a sheet of paper that said, you have celiac disease. This is what you can eat, and this is what you can't eat. Congratulations, right? And they sent me on my way.
I don't know if congratulations is the right word, but...
And they probably didn't say congratulations, but that's how I felt because I had such a relief.
Yeah.
Celiac disease felt like something I had a lot of control over. It's a dietary restriction. I can control it. I can live a long, healthy life. And so it began this journey of sort of understanding celiac disease and figuring out how to heal my body. And like I said, when you think about celiac disease, you think about bread and pasta and cakes, and gluten is in everything. And this is something I've learned the hard way because I actually am very fortunate for myself because it is causing me permanent damage. I react to trace amounts of gluten in 180 seconds. So if I dip the tip of my chopstick into soy sauce, I react to it in less than 3 minutes. And the reaction to that amount is very subtle, but it's very noticeable as well. I know that has gluten in it. So that is fortunate for me. But then I started to realize gluten is not just wheat and flour. It's a color, it's a preservative, and it's a filler. So it's in Pepsi and Coca-Cola. It's often in ginger ale. I've seen it added to apple cider vinegar as caramel color. So everything has caramel color in it. If it's shelf stable, it probably has some sort of caramel color in it. And that's an all natural ingredient. So most people don't even notice or think about it. It also can be a filler. So it can be in things like spices where you think, oh, that's cinnamon, so it doesn't have wheat in it, but there might be cross-contamination from the mill, or their mill might just be trace amounts in it in order to save, the company, the bottom, a penny, which adds up in manufacturing very quickly. Pennies are a huge, huge commodity. So I've been gluten before by cinnamon. And then it's also used as a preservative. So it's always in imitation crab, so California rolls. Can be in things like turkey and ham in the cold cut section. And while a lot of manufacturers have caught on to this notion that gluten-free and being gluten-free is now pretty popular, it's not just a niche the way it used to be. A lot of people are very aware of gluten, even if they're not gluten sensitive. So manufacturers are now using things like saline water that are less gluten, but it can like, if it doesn't say certified gluten-free on it, it has gluten in it. And those certifications, as I know well, because I'm a food manufacturer, are expensive. So unless you really need those certifications and as part of your branding and your marketing, a lot of companies don't invest in them because it does require so much bureaucracy, so much paperwork, and then testing and audits
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
to ensure that there is no cross-contamination. Even if something's naturally gluten-free, if that's not good enough for the certification, you have to be able to show and document that you're cleansing and cleaning and testing equipment so that there's no potential for cross-contamination. So I am on this journey and I realize, oh, I can't eat anything. I immediately get this diagnosis and I was like, because we thought of celiac disease. Well, they were testing me. Well, we were figuring out what was wrong with me. And I tried to do a gluten-free diet and a dairy-free diet and all these different things, elimination diets to try and figure out what was going on. And because gluten's in everything, even things that I didn't know had gluten in them. And I just eat apples, anything. I only eat things like I can see was like picked off the tree or like I could see where it's cut off the animal. And my health rebounded within 24 hours. Obviously, it took years for my body to recover completely because it did infect my digestive system, which is your immune system. But my color, like my cheeks immediately turned pink. And it was within 24 hours, it was like night and day how I felt and how I looked. And so I've been living gluten-free since then. And I used to work in finance. I used to be a stockbroker, getting up 5 o'clock in the morning to get to the gym, to get into the office by before 7:15 so that I'm there when the market's open, and then not being able to leave my desk because the markets don't stop for lunch. So you don't actually leave your desk when you're trading stocks, and then getting home, well after the sun is set and being rather overstimulated and exhausted and realizing how psychological food is. Even something as simple as, there's a 3 o'clock coffee break. Often a lot of corporate cultures, everyone will take a break around 3 o'clock and go and get a drink or a beverage or whatever. And I used to get a Diet Coke, and I love Diet Coke. And that was sort of taken from me. And it was like the crispness of it, the effervescence of it, the saltiness of it, like really gave me that energy I needed to get through the end of the day. And that was taken away from me. And I was like, I really missed that. I was like worried about missing cake, but the thing I missed was like a Diet Coke, a cold Diet Coke.
That's crazy. Yeah, I would struggle without a Diet Coke here and there. So
yeah, I miss Diet Coke in like the summertime when you're at the beach. Like, and I don't drink a ton of soda, but there's these moments like that.
Yes.
Punctuate your memories and sort of these core memories that sort of create who you are, and you realize how important gluten is in a lot of those memories. Whether it's birthday cakes or a Diet Coke or a cold beer at a baseball game, there's all these things that you start to like really miss those things, the ones that you never realized, and it's because food is very ceremonial in our life.
Mm-hmm.
In ways like there's obvious ways that food is ceremonial with like champagne at weddings and birthday cakes, but even things like having a cookie when you're feeling sad, or having a cold soda at the beach. All these things really impact who you are and the way that you relate to the world. And those were the things that it started to really have an impact on me. And I was just having a bad day. As you can imagine, being a stockbroker is stressful.
Yes.
You get tired.
Well, and I think our world revolves around food. Every like social event is food. Every like milestone in our life, there's food. Like there is such a link and correlation to food in our yes. life.
Food is a tremendous part of what community is.
Yeah, for sure.
And it plays a lot of roles that we don't really articulate or even think about when we're taking them for granted. Even something as simple as bread. And like bread is a technology when you think about it. It's a wonderful technology because it makes life so convenient. And there is gluten-free bread, but it's very unappetizing and it's not very stable. Like if you put wet cheese or wet meat on it, it sort of disintegrates.
Okay.
And as a stockbroker, and if you don't have lunch, you have to take your lunch with you and have it at your desk. So you need things that are like...
Yes.
And so just having like being able to grab a bagel or grab a muffin or grab or make a sandwich the night before and take it with you, all of those things really make your life manageable and convenient.
Yeah.
And that convenience was taken away from me. And that was really hard. So all of these things were compounding. I had a really bad week at work. As you can imagine, I dealt with a lot of very big, challenging personalities at times. and wealth management. And I just was tired and I needed a cookie and I'd been shopping. So I was standing online and there's lots of people in front of me and I hadn't eaten. There's gluten-free cookies in front of me and they were beautifully packaged and had this whole story about this artisanal shelf. And I was like, great. And I took one bite of this cookie and it was just not edible. And I think a lot of people have had that experience where the product looks beautiful, it's beautifully packaged, but then it doesn't satiate them the way that a cookie should. And really, a cookie has no purpose other than to be satiating.
That's true. That is true.
It's a tiny little food nugget. It shouldn't be your primary source of calories. You're not
Yes.
giving this as a meal. It doesn't have enough it's so small. It doesn't have enough vitamins and minerals to make it like a substantiate part of your health. Nor should it. You shouldn't be getting your vitamins and minerals from cookies, no matter what.
Yes. Unfortunately.
It's just there to make you smile. That is its only purpose. It's a little snack. It's meant to taste good. It's meant to be satiating. It's meant to be rewarding emotionally. And this was not. And I was like, you know what? Damn it. I need a cookie. And so I was like, I left my job in finance. I was like, I was at a moment in my life where I was like, I need a change. I spent 12 hours a day baking every single day, like I was going into like trade stocks, like obsessively. I created a gluten-free recipe that was stabilized. Making a recipe is one thing. Making a stable recipe you can make exact over and over and over again is quite another endeavor. It's very technical and it involves a lot of science and chemistry and math, which is good because I was a stockbroker. I like all those things. So I create this recipe. I lived on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I lived in a studio apartment, so I had a 24-inch oven in there. And I was making all these cookies. I walked into the Whole Foods on 86th Street and I was just looking for feedback because I'd gone to business school and I was like, they teach you create a prototype, get feedback, refine the prototype. So I'm thinking I'm in the prototype phase and I'm like, okay, I've got a prototype. I walked into the Whole Foods and I had bought some like tin Thai coffee bags off of Amazon and I put my label on the front of the bag, put my products in there, made it look as professional as I could. And I walk in and there's an information booth right in the front of the store. And the woman at the information book said, oh yeah, go talk to Chris. He's behind the bakery counter. He'll talk to you about your products. And I was like, wow, this is easy. And I used to be a stockbroker. So like, I'm used to being like told to shut up and understand, like hung up on. So I walk over to the bakery section, also at the front of the store. And there's a man standing behind the cakes. And I go, Chris? And he's like, yep. And I was like, I make gluten-free cookies. He came around behind the cakes, tasted my cookie, and he goes, Carolyn, that is the best gluten-free cookie I've ever tasted. I want you to go down to Union Square into Brooklyn, go to the Whole Foods and ask for the team leaders there. I don't know what any of this means. He goes, ask for the team leader. And if we all email the regional team at the same time, we have this like forager program, like this local program where we onboard local businesses. If they might consider you for the program, I'm like, fantastic. I'm like, this is amazing. He gave me his business card. So I even have his contact information. I'm like, wow. I run down to Union Square and then I go over to Brooklyn. This takes all day. If you know anything about Manhattan, getting from the Upper East Side to Union Square and then all the way to Brooklyn is like an all day endeavor. So I talked to the team leaders there. And this was on a Thursday and they were onboarding me by Monday. And I was like, I wasn't ready for the go-to-market phase. Like I'm not in the market phase, I'm in the prototype phase. And so you need licenses, you need registrations, you need insurance, you need all sorts of things to sell food to the general public. You can't just walk in.
Yeah.
It's a highly regulated industry.
It's not a bake sale on the side of the road.
It is not. Even that requires licensing. So, even that requires certain levels of licensing and registration. So fortunately, it takes with any retailer, it takes 3 months to onboard. With Whole Foods, it took about 6 months. So I was able to find a commercial facility in Queens where I could bake on the weekends, got all my licenses and registrations all in order. And I went back to being a stockbroker because I could not sustain my lifestyle living in Manhattan without an income, and sold stocks during the week and then baked Saturday, Sunday for a full year.
Wow.
And I hired some teenagers who borrowed their mom's sedan to deliver my cookies on Mondays. And they drove around Manhattan and dropped my cookies off. I started in 3 Whole Foods locations. By the end of the year, I'd grown to 10. And by the beginning of the following year, I'd grown to a full region. And that's when I started sort of looking for capital. I've been funding the whole thing just with credit cards. I knew in the beginning that as much credit as I could get, as much lines of credit I could get was important. So I had really good credit. So I just took out, I opened an LLC, took out some credit cards, which I personally guaranteed, and just used that as my cash flow, and never bought more inventory or packaging than I knew I needed for like 2 months. And then I got some loans so that I could start manufacturing professionally in New Jersey. I got some small business loans, which were a lot easier to get than I thought they would be. They were still personally guaranteed, though, so that I still had a lot of personal risk on the line, and was able to manage the larger orders, because when you're fulfilling a full region, it's like pallets to truckloads of product. And then I grew to 2 full regions at Whole Foods, and then I raised $5 million in capital.
Wow.
Which was the turning point really for the business. And all of it was just word of mouth and really high quality product, and people really liked it, and it sold, and the industry was growing. And now I'm in 43 states.
Wow. Are you in Utah? I need to go get a cookie. Are you in Utah?
Good question. I don't know. It is possible that we're in Utah because we're in like thousands of
Okay. I need to go check it out.
independent grocery stores. So I would have to look at my list. I don't know. We're in so many places. I don't know.
I know. Okay. Well, you need to let me know so that I can actually test out one of your cookies.
Oh, we should send you samples.
I know. Okay. Well, I will hit you up. I will hit you up.
You need to reach out to me. She's the one who sends samples.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. So, and as far as like you, like, I mean, it sounds like too good to be true that you just walked in and it was like, yeah, like, you know, like, yeah, we want your cookies. But as far as like growth goes, was it you outreaching to more Whole Foods and then saying, yeah, we want you, sending samples? Like, how did that expansion like actually happen?
That's a really good question. It was very hard. You're in the beginning, I was unbelievably lucky to have Whole Foods open the door, because I had when you're on the shelf in Whole Foods, even in a limited number of Whole Foods, other retailers use Whole Foods as sort of like the standard, and they'll go in, it's in Whole Foods, and then they would reach out to me. But you get into this catch-22 because I was distribution is the hardest part of the whole business model. And getting distribution is very hard. So you're in this catch-22 where you're like, you go to the distributors and you say, I have this great product. Will you distribute me? And this distributor goes, do you have a customer? Because they want someone who is going to have a high volume that it justifies bringing you in and taking up space in their warehouse. So then you go to the customer and you go to like, I have this great product. Would you put me on your shelf? And then the customer goes, who's your distributor?
Gotcha.
And so it's the circular sort of cycle that you're in. And it's very hard. With Whole Foods, they use independent local distributors. So I was able to work with a local distributor in Manhattan to get my products to Whole Foods, but that didn't necessarily help me get into any other customers.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because they only worked with Whole Foods. So I was in this cycle of like, I would literally go to grocery stores and knock on the door and bring them samples and say, oh, can I speak to your buyer? Can I speak to the manager of the store, and just sell my product that way? There's a lot of like hitting the pavement and knocking on doors. Because I was a stockbroker, I'm not afraid of cold calling, and we still do stuff like that. Once I raised the capital doors, the $5 million, a lot of the doors opened for newer retailers, because suddenly food brokers were interested. And I got into 2 distributors, 2 of the largest distributors, by being a part of their sort of up next programs. They have an entrepreneurial program where they say, okay, we know that you don't have clients in these 3 distribution centers, but we're going to put you there in a limited capacity so that you can go out and sell your product to them. Because it's basically an emerging business model. Because I'd raised the capital, they felt like I was a good risk, not a bad risk.
Yeah.
Both the 2 largest national distributors onboarded me into their programs in that year.
That's awesome. It's super interesting, because it's just like, and I think as entrepreneurs, it's like you look at all these like pieces, you know, like where it's like you studied business, so you kind of knew how to do the business. Then you worked in stock, you were a stockbroker, so that you knew how like the money part worked. And then it's interesting how our paths lead us. Like we have all these we have to go like a certain way that helps us in our business. It opens doors, and, you know, there isn't just one way to get to where you want to go. There's different avenues that you take, and you're getting knowledge through all this experience and education, but it kind of brings you to like where you are. You know, it's just crazy to hear people's stories that way.
Yeah. And I sort of did that intentionally. You know, I'd gone to Yale, and there's a network of venture capitalists and a lot of talk about raising capital, and, you know, you can do business competitions and things like that. And that's something I was very familiar with, but I did not want to do that. And I was very intentional in wanting to own the business myself in the beginning. And sort of, I wanted to be the expert I didn't want to be the person just with the idea and then sort of handing over my business idea and just trusting other venture capitalists with it. I wanted to be the expert in the room, and I wanted to know more about the gluten-free manufacturing and the gluten-free business than anyone else. And so I was like, I wasn't ready to sort of crash and burn. I was like, I want to take my time with this. I want to take little risks, and I want to really learn the business. And that in the beginning was very intentional on my part. I wanted to, like, if I had failed in the beginning, I would have lost 10 grand and just carried on with my life and had a really fun time. Like, I loved it. It was absolutely very exciting. But there's certainly, if you have a great idea and you can get someone to invest in you early on, that's also a path, but it does not have to be your path. And I learned this from being in wealth management. And we had so many clients who were worth, $20 million or more. And we would talk to them about, it's called closely held business. And I would talk to them about their story and how they built these phenomenal businesses. And I'd be like, oh, I started by selling peaches on the side of the road, right?
Yeah.
They weren't all these like stories like Facebook. Like, a lot of people built these really successful, even regional businesses they ended up selling for hundreds of millions of dollars just by having an idea and then growing it very slowly.
Yeah.
And so that is a path. It's not as flashy of a path, so it doesn't end up in movies or in books as often. But there are many, many people who have accumulated wealth by having a really great idea, fulfilling a need in a business, starting small, learning how to operate the business, what mistakes, and then, eventually growing it and selling it.
Yeah. And it's incredible because, like, a lot of times it is true. It's a problem that you're solving. Like, would you have, you know what I mean? Like, if you hadn't had been diagnosed with celiac disease, like, you wouldn't have recognized, like, oh, there's a problem in this. Like, I don't have celiac disease. I don't understand, like, the gluten-free world. It's, you know what I mean? And so to me, I'm just like, it just seems, but I hear over and over people who are looking for good gluten-free food. I follow lots of influencers and different people who I know that this is a need. I know this is a problem that needs, to be solved. So it's finding that problem and solving it. And ultimately that's what you did with your business. So that's incredible.
And especially, I think it's an important lesson for women, because oftentimes the way that women, like, it's very hard to get capital in the very beginning for women because the standard is like the 22-year-old white male, and being a woman and standing in front of all these older male investors and it's not impossible. It just doesn't happen as often. It doesn't have to. If you have a great business idea and you can create the funds in the beginning and take a little bit of risk. And I never mortgaged my house. I don't believe in that. That was not something. I never took out more risk than I knew that I could pay off and be financially successful and stable afterwards. I was like, in the beginning, I was like, I never had more than $10,000 in credit card fees because I could handle that.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's doable. It's doable. It's manageable. And I just made sure that each month I never had more than $10,000 outstanding on my credit card. And I grew it to a point where eventually I was like, I need $100,000 for my next PO. And then that's when I went to a bank.
Yeah. Well, what an incredible story. And, and just to see your growth. So tell my listeners where they can find your cookies, where they can get more information, or if they want to just follow you and get to know your story and try some of your yummy cookies. How can they find you?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Mightylicious. You can buy our cookies at mightylicious.com. We ship to all 50 states. If you buy 3 bags or more, shipping is free. You can also find us on our Amazon storefront. So if that's where you prefer to purchase, I do a lot of Amazon shopping myself. We're on Amazon. And then we are in thousands of grocery stores across the US. If you're on the East Coast, we're in Giant. That's our largest retailer. We're in Fairway here in Manhattan. We're in hundreds of independents. Out in Texas, we're in HEB. We're out in California. And I'm not from California, but we're in a lot of the really big independent chains out in California. I was just in LA and we were stopped at all the stores and saw my cookies. If you can't find us at our local grocery store, don't be afraid to ask. And this doesn't just apply to my product. Any product that you buy routinely on Amazon or somewhere, your grocery stores want to know what you're buying because they know their biggest competitor these days is online.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if there's something you can find online that you buy all the time, if enough people ask for it politely, they will start stocking it. That's how easy it is. And I know this because this is what I do for a living now. And I'll walk in, and also because I'm gluten free, I'll be like, oh, there's this certain type of bread. Do you have it? And they'll be like, no, but you're the fourth person to ask me that. And then they take a mental note of that, and then they communicate it up to whoever the buying team is. They don't want to have to guess what you want. They want to know what you want, and they want to stock it for you.
Yeah, I love that.
So don't be shy. And it doesn't have to be about my cookies. It could be about anything. Help them out, let them know. And you might find it works.
That's awesome. Well, awesome. Well, this has been so fun. I love to hear your story. It's been like super interesting. I'm excited to try your cookies. But Carolyn, I like to end all of my podcasts with asking my guests 2 questions. So the first one is, what is a pet peeve?
Stale cookies is a pet peeve of mine. I don't have a lot of pet peeves. I don't have a mentality. I don't worry about other people.
Yeah.
I just worry about myself.
Yes, that's a good place to be. Good place to be. I know I had to kind of help her with her pet peeve. I had to say, come on, stale cookies. Come on. You know what is, so I love it. Okay. What is a simple pleasure?
A simple pleasure is I love a cold beverage on a warm day.
Oh yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
An icy cold beverage on a warm day.
My personal favorite is a good cookie. So I am excited to test out your cookies. So I will put all of Carolyn's information in the show notes and on my website. So check her out and give her cookies a try. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for joining me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Let's not stop the party here. Head on over to my Instagram or Facebook group, Redefine Your Business, and let me know your thoughts about today's show. I will see you again, same time, same place, next week.